So here we have Hannah Jackson on. This was again probably 5 or 6 years ago. The audio was just absolutely not well, so I decided not to release it then. And I cleaned it up a little bit now, but it's still you can still kind of tell why you can't really hear her end on the other side from audio issues. But yeah, everyone enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Hannah Jackson on the podcast. She's a figure competitor coming to us all the way from California, where I don't even want to talk about the weather, but I'm going to have to ask her eventually. But she's on here to share her health and fitness journey, talk all things about it, and, just have a nice conversation. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I gotta ask first of all, even though I hate to ask it, what's the weather like today in California?
So today it's a little bit cooler. It's 88, but it's humid as all get out. We've actually had a really hot week. The last couple of days was in the hundreds, which is really hot for where I'm in California. I'm in Long Beach, Huntington Beach area, so LA. And yeah, it's been miserable the last few days. So I'll take the 88. It feels better.
I was gonna say, I read in the newspaper yesterday it was 121 at one place, and it made it the hottest day in California history. But yeah, it's 55 here, which hey, I'll take that actually over the 80 degrees. So that's just my personal preference. But before we get into the weather woes, because that's a whole podcast that I'm planning of just 10 hours of me discussing my worst winter weather stories, and it's gonna be really depressing. So I highly recommend no one check that out. But why don't you give us your backstory on what really inspired and motivated you to get in shape, and how that led to where you're at right now?
So it's kind of weird because I never played sports growing up. That my dad traveled a lot for work, so we were always somewhere, and so I never played sports. I was in and out of the gym as a family thing, and it's kind of cool because looking back on it, I grew up in a gym called Stroud's Fitness in Fort Worth, Texas, and then the original Metroflex in Arlington, Texas. And my dad just kind of made us go to the gym with him, just because it was just I'm going, so you're going. And I mean, all I did at the time was just get on the treadmill. But looking back, I think it's pretty cool because there was people like Grant Warrant, Johnny Jackson, Ronnie Coleman, even. And back then, I knew nothing about bodybuilding, but I just remember thinking these guys were huge and just and it's just crazy now to look back at it and to think I'm trying to get on the same stage that they're on. But really, that was the most I'd ever been in the gym was when I was younger. I got older, never out of shape until I got into my early 20s. I put on a bunch of weight and then started working at a gym and started just kind of hanging out with one of the trainers. I lost some weight. But my real fitness journey started because, like I told you when you asked me to be on the show, I'm super shy. And one day I just wanted to do something to get out of my comfort zone. And so I went to a little seminar with a friend about bodybuilding, getting ready for a show. And so I was like, well, yeah, sure, I'll go. And I saw the girls there with all the the figure girls. They had the big shoulders and the nice backs, and I was like, my God, I want to look like that. But more than anything, I just wanted to find something to get out of my comfort zone. So I decided to sign up for this show. It was just going to be a one-time thing. And my family they did not believe I was going to do it. They're like, there's no way you're going to put on that tiny little suit that hardly covers anything on your body and then get on stage in front of everybody. So they all came down. I was in Louisiana at the time. They all came down and I told them, guys, don't do this. I'm not going to win. I don't even think I'll place. Long story short, I ended up winning my class and then I won overall. I was definitely not the biggest girl on that stage. But I got the best compliment possible. The judges said that I won because they felt out of all the girls I had the most potential. So I was 26 at the time. So definitely winning my first trophy at 26 really did something for me. And I just got hooked. It's amazing what the body can do. But I'm actually from hearing impaired. That's why I had headphones on. So I can't hear out of this ear, and then I had hearing loss in this ear. And that's one reason why I'm so shy. But I want to kind of use my story and my journey to teach people that no matter what, you can do whatever you want. Don't let what people say or a disability. I don't look at myself like I have a disability. But I want to teach people don't let that kind of stuff hold you back from reaching your goals, whatever they are, whether it's bodybuilding, a job, a spouse, whatever your goals are. you can achieve it no matter what anyone says. So
I
that's
was
my
li-
goal.
Well, yeah, I was literally just going to ask that because you are the first person that I've met then that's actually from Texas, born and raised, that doesn't have an accent. So kudos to that. We have something new every single time then, because yeah, I've had so many people from Texas on, and I'm thinking I got to put subtitles underneath when they're talking, when they really get into it. But yeah, that's just amazing, and that's just so great. And yeah, I mean, I love hearing those stories because they're just so inspiring for so many people. But one thing that I love to ask all of my guests that I have on is, if you were to walk into a gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape, whether it comes down to, I mean, their diet, their nutrition, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. So many little things add up to that overall package that people end up seeing. What was that experience like for you, sort of figuring out what worked best for your body? Because it's so much trial and error, and really it takes so much time too.
So what do I think works best for me? Is that what
Or
your question was?
how did you figure it out? Because so many people, like, they try it at first and then they don't succeed, so then they literally just give up. That's a lot of with health and fitness, but it's all about just keep going. But what was that journey like for you, sort of figuring out what worked best for you? Because it's so much trial and error.
I mean, I think for me and my journey and what made it work best for me is, first off, I was doing it for me. So, like, when you hit that trial and error, so like when you mess up or something doesn't work, when you're doing it for yourself, it's a little bit different, I think. I also have an amazing coach, and he really guides me along the way. Like because we all beat ourselves up. So when you start to beat myself up, like he kind of puts me back in place. Um, and I don't know, to me, it's like, since I don't do it for a trophy. Like that's a plus. But I always tell everybody the one thing that can keep you motivated is like that self accomplishment. So like when you do something right, when you do get that first pull up or that first push up, like just remember that feeling. Like basically remember why you started. And I feel like you'll always get back on track if you do fall off or you do start to mess up. If you just really think back to why you started, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, with this lifestyle, you're going to have those days where you wake up and you're just like, I do not want to do anything associated with working out today. I don't want to, eat the same meal that I've been eating for the last couple of months, but it's just all about that mindset, which is why I really enjoy talking to people that are into the sport, because I really do say it takes a different breed of person to be able to go through that day after day and still, still get those results. But I love to talk genetics on this podcast because everyone in this day and age with Instagram, I mean, everyone's always like, oh, I want her arms, his abs, their back. They don't realize that you can only be the best version of yourself. And I mean, I always tell people, it's like, you don't know how that person got to the way that they look. You don't know. I mean, some people are just born lucky. Other people, you just never know. But whenever someone first gets started, I always say you have that one body part that really, really takes off, and you have that one body part that's just really, really drags behind, that you have to train to oblivion. I mean, my back, just because I had jobs all throughout college, I mean, of lifting and loading boxes in warehouses, you either got a really nice back or you quit. But being 6'3", my lower body is just absolutely shot. I always said I could inject pure muscle into my legs and they wouldn't gain an ounce. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
Oh, so luckily in figure, my back is definitely my strongest point. I feel like when I'm on stage, that's what keeps me ranking where I'm ranking, is because, and I love to work out back. Like I would work out back every day of the week if I could. I kind of have the same thing as you. Legs are just my downfall. And I do think part of that is just being a woman. Like we obviously are going to hold a little bit more weight and water in our legs, so that does suck. But that has been my biggest challenges throughout all my trips. And each year it's getting better and better. But my hamstrings are just as stubborn as they can be. So that has been my main focus this off season. Really, is just grinding and working my legs as hard as I can. But yeah, I love that. That's definitely my strong point, and it's definitely my favorite. So, but yeah, and then like you said, rewinding a little bit, like you said, as far as mindset, this whole process, like it definitely takes a certain type of person, because it is a mindset. It is a brutal mind game. Like, because like you said, eating the same thing day in and day out. I think that's another place where I'm really lucky, because I love structure and I love routine. So eating the same thing for 6 weeks straight is, I like prep more than I like off season for that reason. I like having a simple diet every day, eating the same thing every day. But because it is a mind game, definitely.
Oh, I mean, Yeah, and I always compare it to like, yeah, you work just as hard, if not harder, than any other athletes on the planet. But those athletes get to they get to go on the field or whatever they do for like, maybe like 100 times a year for like 3 hours at a time. But you guys get to go on stage for maybe like 3 minutes at the most, just for, and it just really shows the hard work that really goes into this. But yeah, I mean, don't even get me started, first of all, on calves. That's my number one pet peeve. I had one guest who then put her calf on the table to show me, and I was like, we're done with this podcast. I'm done talking to you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. This is just absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I love bringing that up because so many people have so many different body parts that really work, and it really just shows, how, it just depends on, how you're born. Not really how you're born, but it just, depends on factors of what's going to really take off for you. But a myth and stereotype that I love to bust, and we discussed this right before we started recording, is that, it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram, but there's still so many women that the moment they walk in that gym, they just automatically run towards the treadmill. They don't even look at the weights because they think just even looking at the weights is going to make them become bulky. But obviously that's definitely not the case. But did you ever have that fear when you were getting started? And even if you didn't have that fear, how do you like to respond to that? Because I bet you hear that all the time.
So, when I was in Louisiana and even now, I am a trainer, so that is definitely one of the biggest things, especially if they do see me when I'm getting ready for a show. I've heard it so many times, oh, like, I don't want to get manly, I don't want to get bulky, or no offense, but I don't want to look like you. And I completely understand that. First off, I'll say it, I know not everybody, but my look isn't for everybody, and I totally understand that. But one, I wish it was that easy. I wish I could just pick up some dumbbells and then I would be huge. Like, if it was that easy, we would all do it. So I just kind of explain it to them like that, and just tell them muscle burns fat. So in order to burn all that fat that you want to lose, we need to add muscle to your body. You want that nice big booty? Well, guess what? We got to add muscle to that booty. Like, you want those curves? We have to add muscle to create those curves. Like, and you just kind of explain it to them like that. And I think the more I repeat myself as far as the more muscle you have, the more fat you'll burn, they just instantly like, oh, well, I want to work out. And I just take it slow, like, teach them some moves. And then once they get hooked, and then you add the weight, then they're like, oh my God, this feels so good. Like, I have some girls now that are training, and each time they get stronger, they get more excited. And they realize that, yeah, I'm not going to be manly or bulky, not even a year from now or 2 years from now. Like, it takes a long time. So I guess just explaining to them that way. Like, fad diets don't work. That's why they're fad diets.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, I got to add too, though, if it does happen for you, like one day, if after working out for one day you gain all that muscle, give me a call because I'm willing to spend my entire life savings to train with you for once. Because who would I say you'd be like the first ever trillionaire? I mean, everyone would want to buy whatever you were selling. So that's just ridiculous. But one thing that I think impacts women, especially, so much more positive than men. I mean, it affects men positively too, but for women especially, is that confidence boost that working out gives you. I mean, we've heard so many stories on this podcast of women who have been able to make life-changing decisions, or just help them become more assertive, or just, I always say that's the one thing that you can take from the gym and use to impact every single aspect of your life, is that confidence boost. How have you personally taken that confidence boost that working out's given you and used it to impact your life in a positive way?
Say, ask me that question one more time. I just didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
So like we talk about how important the confidence boost is for working out. How has that confidence boost from working out impacted your life in a positive way?
The confidence?
Yeah. How have you taken that? So the confidence boost from working out, how have you taken that confidence boost and use it to impact your life in a positive way from working out?
Oh, I think just from going completely shy, like, just, I mean, I was that girl in the corner that just kind of just nods. And now that I have that confidence in the gym, and just it created that confidence in myself, that now like, I would never do this before. I would never come on and, you know, put myself out there and like ask you to repeat questions and things like that. Like, I would never do that kind of stuff. So I think that has impacted my social life and my everyday life a lot. Like, tremendous. And I think that's one reason why I love bodybuilding so much, is because it has given me that self confidence even outside the gym. It's shown me that I can do things that I never thought I could. So it changed my life completely, 100%.
And that's why I love to bring that up, because we hear so many answers like that, and it's so great for a lot of people to hear. But one thing that isn't talked about as much as it should be is the nutrition, because so many people don't understand that nutrition is 80 to 90% of this lifestyle. I mean, it's so important. And what were some of the bigger nutritional changes that you made when you really started to take things seriously working out?
One more time, just the last part.
Oh, yeah. What were some of the biggest nutritional changes that you had to make when you really started to take things seriously in the gym?
The biggest nutritional changes I had to
Yeah.
make. Um, well, I guess since it started slowly for me, because I went from like my party days where I would drink a lot. That's where I put on a lot of my weight. So I'm not even gonna lie, because when you drink till 2 a.m., then what do? You eat late at night, and then what do? After that? You go to bed. So, but for me, I cut that out really slowly. So by the time I got to the bodybuilding stage of things, I hate to say it, but it really wasn't hard for me. But in the beginning, before even bodybuilding, when I was just making the lifestyle change in itself, um, I think the hardest part was just the social part of it. So like when you're on these diets, like if the people in your circle don't understand your lifestyle, they'll be like, even if it's just an apple, they'll be like, why can't you eat it? I just can't because it's not on my diet. Like, and I'm that type of girl. Like, I'll still be social, but I'm gonna have to bring my Tupperware. I'm gonna bring my own sauce. So you got to find those friends that are comfortable with that kind of stuff. If they're not, I feel like that can make it really hard. So yeah.
No, and we've heard plenty of stories like that too, where it's all about, that's so the whole social aspect too. That's one of the unforeseen things that isn't talked about as much as I think it should be. That's really going to affect you. But one thing too that I think is the most important thing when it comes to maybe this whole lifestyle is sleep. I mean, so many people don't talk about it. How it's the most important thing when it comes to recovery. And first of all, so a little side tangent. I had the number one sleep specialist on the planet on the podcast, and he was a professor from Oxford. And first of all, he had one of those British accents where you felt like you gained 10 IQ points just from talking to him, where I even told him, I was like, you're gonna talk the entire time and I'm gonna listen, because it's literally like chocolate to my ears. Basically, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
But we were talking about the importance of sleep, and how much sleep do you try to get, and are there any tips and tricks that you use on how to get that amount of sleep? Because especially in this day and age with technology, everyone I think is having such a harder time of finding that proper amount that they usually would normally get.
That proper amount of sleep.
Yeah. So like, what's the proper amount of sleep that you try to get, and then what are some tips and tricks that you might use to get it? Because so many people suffer finding out like, how do I get that proper amount?
I mean, I think sleep is probably one of the spots where I do struggle the most, because especially once I start work back again tomorrow. I mean, I have to be at work at 4:30 a.m. Then I get off I get off fairly early. I get off at 1, but then I have training clients that I have to do, and then I have my own stuff that I have to do, my workout, my meal prep, things like that. I mean, my coach would probably kill me if he heard me say that my goal is 6 hours of sleep. He'd be like, no, you need way more than that. But that's my goal. If I can get 6 hours of sleep, then I'm doing all right. Obviously, you want to get that 8 hours of sleep. If I can, I try to get a nap in. There's people that use sleep aids all brands make sleep aids that help you sleep at night. Me, I'm the kind of person that once I'm asleep, I'm not waking up. Like, I'm out to the world. So I don't really use there's no method behind my madness of how I get more sleep. Really, it's just close your eyes and just rock back and forth till you go to sleep. But yeah, but I know there's people that use melatonin, chamomile tea, and like I said, all supplements, like Redcon One, all of those people, yeah, they all make a sleep supplement. So works for some people, doesn't work for others. But like I said, I just kind of close my eyes until I get there, and I'm out like a light.
She's one of those lucky people, I guess, where she can just, close her eyes and fall asleep, and that's good for her. But yeah, for me, yeah, it's hard for me to fall asleep. So yeah, and I used to work nights too. So like when you're getting up at 4:30, I'd have nights where I'd be going to bed at 4:30. So I always find that fascinating. But I always say, for the general public, if you were to poll the general public, 99% of the general public wouldn't be able to just get into the amount of shape and dedication that it takes to even go on a prep, because to even go on a prep, you need to be in a great amount of shape. But once you go on that prep, everything is so specific and everything is so scientific, where you got to get everything down pat. What is that like for you when you sort of have that mental switch that goes on as soon as you need to start a prep, where like everything just becomes so laser focused?
And like again, sometimes I feel like my answers are so corny or cliche or whatever. But like I said before, like I do better in prep than I do off season. Like when I flip that switch, like it's harder for me to flip the switch to go into off season, like than it is for me to go into prep. Like I love prep, like, and so I don't really know how to answer that question.
Well, I just gotta say then that just shows how, you know, I've had a few people say I love prep, but not that many. So it really just shows you are in the rare, at least for some of the guests that I've had on. But that's great, because I was gonna say, if you hate prep, this is not the sport for you. Like, if you absolutely hate it, and I've had a few of them on there where I'm like, oh my god, you poor thing, like, why would you put yourself through that? And they're like, oh, because I like walking on the stage. And I was like, yeah, but all that for like a minute if you really hate it. But I mean, that's great that you enjoy that now, because yeah, so many people don't understand that, you know, everyone just assumes that everyone hates it. But it's nice to hear people say, some people say that, you know, hey, I really do enjoy it, which is awesome. But the number one thing that I would have never guessed in a million years before I started this podcast is that for so many of these guests, posing is the hardest thing for them. It's harder than your working out. It's harder than your nutrition. I mean, it's just something that I would have never guessed in a million years. But what has your relationship with posing been like?
So again, I feel very blessed because like my first show, posing just came natural to me, and I don't know how and I don't know why because like I said before, I didn't play any sports. Um, and like my first show, I think my coach at the time helped me with posing like twice, and then that was it. And no matter how good you think you are, you can always be better. Just like Phil Heath is the top bodybuilder, but he still has a coach and someone that helps him. So I mean, no matter how good you think you are, you can always have someone help. So I still have people help me with it, but it came very natural for me. If I had to say where I struggle, again, since my legs are my weak point, it took me a while to learn how to engage the back of my legs and things like that. But overall, posing comes really natural for me. And everybody always jokes because when I pose, they're like, "Where did that sass come from?" Because I'm a very plain Jane person. My hair is always tied up, and I just like I'm just a plain Jane person. But when I pose, like I feel because I've worked my ass off for so long for that 30 seconds that I get on stage that I'm gonna own that 30 seconds. Like that is my time to show you all the hard work that I've done. So I feel like the hardest thing people have usually is opening their back. Like when it comes to opening your lats, that's usually where most people struggle. I got very lucky there. But I also think that you can't have good posing until you have good confidence. Like, because you have to feel like you own that moment, and when you do, that's gonna show. Just like if you're awkward, like sitting next to somebody and you take a picture, like how it's gonna show. Same thing on stage. When you're doing your posing, if you're not confident, it's gonna show. So I feel like look deep down inside, find that confidence, own that moment, and the rest will start to come along. So.
What is that feeling like when you walk up on that stage and you're finally able to show off all that hard work that you've worked months upon months on? What's going through your head as you walk on that stage?
So the first time I was trembling, like I was shaking like a leaf. I swear, like I thought the pictures were gonna be blurry. I was shaking so bad. But now I'm an adrenaline junkie, so like I live for that 30 seconds. And like the night before prep, the night before the show, that's when I am my most calm. And when I stand up and I'm waiting for them to call my number, I don't know. It's like I get giddy because like it really is a feeling you can't explain. Like, I really do live for those 30 seconds. Like and it's for like yes, it's for the judges, yes, it's for the show, and obviously I want to win my pro card, but like I've worked so that is my moment. Like, and it's just nice because it's something no one can take that away from you. That is all you, and it's an awesome feeling. It really is. Like to just I don't know, it's amazing.
I mean, I couldn't even describe it too, so that's why I love to ask the guests, because yeah, it is just a feeling in and of its own. I mean, all the hard work that you've put into that look, and just to be able to finally, you know, show it off. But now we go to a fun question. What is your go-to post-show meal?
Ask that question one more time.
Yeah, what is your go-to post-show meal?
My go-to
post-show meal.
Supplement?
Post-show meal.
Post-show meal?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So I am not a sweet tooth person. I don't care about cakes and donuts and stuff like that. Just give me like a greasy burger and French fries, and then when I get back to the hotel room, I just want popcorn. Like I'm a grease and salt person. So like I said, burger and fries when I go out, and then I just want popcorn and Cheetos when I get home. Like give me that, and I am set. So I've already started making my list.
Yeah, and I mean, I would totally agree with that too. But another myth and misconception that I love to bust on the podcast, because we've heard it, so many times that people aren't aware of this, is that look that you guys put on stage, that is not a sustainable look. I mean, we've heard it so many times that people, especially if they don't have a coach, they try to maintain that look year round, and then it ends up hurting themselves because it's definitely not something that they can do. But what was that like for you when you first discovered that, like, hey, this look that I put on stage, it's not a sustainable look, and I'm not going to be able to look like this 24/7. What was that like? And has it gotten easier for you to accept that as your career's gone on, that, like, hey, this is the best look that I'm going to look for a while, and I need to put on some weight?
So my first time going into an off season, it was a little hard for me because like being chunkier before and then losing all that weight and then having to put weight back on, seeing the scale get so close to the number that I was at before I ever started even thinking about bodybuilding was kind of scary to me. Um, and honestly, I don't think I was 100% comfortable with it until probably a year or two ago. Because you just have to tell yourself it's part of the process. Like, because if you're really in this for the longevity of the sport, if you're really in this to reach your peak and do as good as you can do, it's all part of the process. So, do you want to get bigger and do you want to get stronger? Okay, then you have to put on the weight in the off season. Like that's the only way. It really is the only way it's gonna work. And now I absolutely love my off season body. Like I love the curves that I have. I love the shape that I have. I've added enough muscle that I don't just feel fat. Like I feel thick, like thick fit, I guess you would say. So now I absolutely look forward to it. But it did take me like a year or so to get used to it. So, and this whole sport is a mind game. But go ahead, what?
Oh, no, no, I was gonna say, yeah, it's absolutely true. It's a whole mind game. I mean, I always compare it to sort of like starting your own business too, where it's like you got to spend money to make money. You have to put on weight if you want to put on muscle. I mean, those two unfortunately just go hand in hand, and a lot of people struggle with that. So that's why I love to bring up that question. But I mean, we'll talk a little bit about coronavirus now, just because it's one thing that's impacted all of our lives so much in ways that we would have never thought. I mean, if you were to tell me last year that there'd be a global pandemic and it would totally affect the way that I live my life, I'd call you an absolute liar. But how has COVID impacted you personally, especially being a bodybuilder too, where I mean, gyms have been shut down. I know you have maybe a setup in your garage, but how has it overall impacted you just as Hannah, the coronavirus?
Just the last part of that
Oh,
question. I'm
not a problem.
sorry.
Again, no, I'll edit all this stuff out too, so that it doesn't look like we're asking. So it's not a problem at all. I'm more than happy to. But so how has the coronavirus impacted you personally?
Oh, okay. So, whew, I right before coronavirus happened. So I work at a gym, so that's great. But then obviously not great when coronavirus happened. So, and my gym got shut down a week after I started prep, and I was so nervous. I was getting ready for a show in Vegas in July. So needless to say, the show didn't happen. But was I didn't know what I was going to do. But luckily, my neighbors had a small little setup, and they would let me go over there. And they just had like a squat rack, maybe a couple of dumbbells, and a few things like that. But I utilized that the best I could, and I slowly started putting everything together. Like I'm in my garage right now. So my garage is basically a full gym. If I can do it at the gym, I can do it here. And I just got blessed. I just did it little by little. Like as soon as the lockdown happened, I just started ordering things before prices jacked up. Um, and oddly enough, I think I have benefited from this. It forced me to slow down, focus on time under tension, focus on just different things. Just taking my time in general has made a huge difference for me. And then not only that, but there's no time frame. I'm not like, oh man, I got to get in here in an hour and get to work. Like, no. If I want to work out for 2.5 hours, well, I get to work out for 2.5 hours. So I do feel sorry for the people that it has affected because I know it's affected a lot of people. I know a lot of people have had to drop out of prep and things like that. Luckily enough, after my show was canceled, I just told my coach, I was like, listen, I'm not going to pick another show and it quit, and pick another show and have it quit. So I just said, I'm going to kind of put a pause on this. I'm going to go back into off season and I'll just start to whittle down. We'll see where we're at. Well, here in California, we are still on lockdown. Um, the gyms are closed unless you want to work out outside. But since I do work for a military gym, we are opening up tomorrow. So I get to go back to work tomorrow. I'm excited to be around humans again. uh, but yeah, so luckily it hasn't affected me too much because I've been blessed enough to have an awesome setup in my garage.
And that's great. And you mentioned time under tension, and I love to talk about that because I think it's a thing that most people don't understand is time under tension. So I'm going to pretend that I don't know what that is, and we might have some new guests listening. So could you explain to us what time under tension is?
So I mean, time under tension is so like a leg extension, for example. Most people will just sit there and they'll swing it up and down super fast. No, come up nice and slow, hold nice and slow down. And then that time under tension is where your muscles are really going to grow. So, because I mean, if I do a lat pull down and I'm going to swing and throw it, I can pull a hell of a lot of weight. But if I'm going to go nice and slow, time under tension, and really pull, I'm going to have to drop probably 40 pounds off of that. But that's where the magic happens. So,
yeah.
basically what it is.
And I've been trying it too, and it's really, really helped me and impacted my life in a positive way. So I highly recommend that. But one thing that also goes along with the time under tension is the mind to muscle connection. And for a lot of people that don't understand that, I mean, that is the big difference between, doing well in a lot of, especially for bodybuilding, mind to muscle connection is so important. But it's one thing that takes people so long to get. I mean, we've heard stories that it's taken people multiple years to achieve that, mind to muscle connection. And the thing is, you might only be able to achieve it for, let's say, you might get that mind to muscle connection when you're doing a curl, but you might not be able to get it when you're doing a squat. But how long into your journey before you felt like you developed a nice mind to muscle connection when you were working out?
Again, I feel like that's something that came pretty natural for me, except when it came with working my glutes. That took me a long time for some reason to learn to learn that mind to muscle connection with my glutes took me forever. I feel like, in fact, I probably just really started to nail that like last year. But that is one of the biggest things, like the mind to muscle connection that I have with people that I train, because they wanted to come in here and grab those heavy weights and start going. And it's like, again, sure, you can do it, and you might even benefit from it. You might even make some changes to your body, but you're not going to build the muscle the way you really wanted to start with. Like, drop the weight, do the move, and then add the weight. Like, I always tell people, just grab a light, even if it's 10 pounds, just grab that 10-pound dumbbell, do the move, learn the body, mind the muscle, and then from there, you can jump the weight. Like, and especially if you're new to the gym and you don't know how much weight you can do. Like, so a dumbbell curl. You new to the gym, you don't know how much you can curl. Start with a 5-pound dumbbell, 10-pound dumbbell. Just feel the movement, think about the muscle. And if you're like, oh wow, that's extremely light, well then try the 20-pound dumbbell and go from there. But yeah, mind and muscle connection and time under tension obviously go hand in hand. You gotta have it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one thing and that's why I love to bring that up as well. But being that you are a personal trainer, and I mean, I always say the number one excuse that I always hear from personal trainers when it comes to their clients is that, everyone always says, oh, I don't have the time to work out. I would love to, but my schedule's just so full. I don't have the time. And it's like, we all have the same 24 hours in the day, unless you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I'm convinced that he's made a deal with the devil to give himself like 27 hours in the day. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But one thing that I think is the positive thing from this coronavirus, if there is anything out of it, is that, so many people have so much more free time now. And so really that excuse is non-existent. And I always feel that everyone wants to get in better shape. It's just that a lot of people lack the knowledge on how to do it. If they had the knowledge, they would do it. But what advice would you have for someone who maybe might walk up to you and say, Hannah, I have all this free time now and I really want to get at least started to get in shape. How would I do that? What advice would you give for anyone out there who's just looking to just get started right now?
I mean, I guess it just depends on the person. Like, I mean, depending on your activity level in general. Like, if you don't do anything at all, like, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like, if you're just not active at all, start by like doing like cardio 3 times a week. Like, just start with something that you know you can commit to. And to be honest, with the coronavirus and having so much time on your hands, like, it can actually be hard because you sit around and then you get extremely demotivated because you don't have any energy because you've been sitting around so much. Like my work, we actually did like a virtual walking contest. So like just to keep people moving and getting them out of the house. So I feel like depending on where your activity level is, start with something like that. Start with a goal that you know for a fact you can commit to. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna walk 3 times a week. From there, I mean, just I always tell people 4 small changes are better than one huge change that you can't stick to. Because you do 4 small changes for 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks you do 4 more small changes. And before you know it, that 4 has become 8 and then 16 and it just goes on from there and you've done a complete lifestyle change. Because so that would be my advice. Pick things that you know you can stick to, start small and go from there.
Oh yeah, I always say walking too is like the easiest thing that you can get started on, and that's one thing that a lot of people should just do is just go for a walk. I mean, it's like it's so simple, and I think it really does benefit a lot of people too. But if someone were to walk up to you and say, you know, Hannah, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you would like to see changed?
One more time.
Not a problem. So if someone were to walk up to you and say, Hannah, we made the decision that you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Oh my god. That is actually a really hard question. I I don't know. I guess especially in the women's division of the sport, there's a like a look that you're supposed to have, but it never really gets followed. So I don't know. I guess maybe getting everybody on the same page where it's like, this is what this category has to look like. This is what this category needs to look like, and just stick to it. But again, that's kind of hard to say that because every body in general, every human body is different. So it's kind of I don't know really what I would change. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a hard question.
for me, I would just say a more generalized, you know, idea of what they want would be so much better. Where it's like this is the look that we want. Where as opposed to you know, if you compete in shows in back to back weeks, they'd probably want different looks for each show. And then you know, it's like yeah, good luck, you know, changing yourself over that 1 week for to suit the judges. I would definitely say that. But if we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding journey? Where would you like to just be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you would like to have achieved if we were to talk to you a year from today?
What would be something I would like to achieve at the end of the day, whether it's bodybuilding or my personal life?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we were to talk to you a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding, and where would you just like? What are your goals that you would like to see if you so that you have achieved within the next year?
Okay. So definitely in the next year, I would like to have my pro card. So that's definitely a goal of mine. I want to be an IFBB pro, hands down, no doubt. Um, and then within the next couple of years, I do want to own my own gym. That I want to be back in Texas. I want to own my own gym. Um, so I think those are my two main goals, and they kind of go hand in hand. But definitely, I'm gonna grind until I get that pro card. So I think that's the number one goal on my list right now. Like that's my main focus. That's my main focus right now. Get that pro card for sure.
Well, and that's so awesome, and we wish you nothing but the best on that. I think obviously you're gonna do great. But lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Sure. So my teammate Tara, she just turned pro over the weekend. So I love you, girl. I'm so happy for you. And then my brother back home, my family owns a motorcycle shop back home. So shout out to my brother and Reed B twins. And of course my coach, Underrated Muscle, and my suit sponsor, who's Suit by V. Shout out to her as well. So
Well,
that's it.
and that's awesome. And again, everyone, go and give Hannah a follow on her Instagram page. I'll leave the link down below. And Hannah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. And we do wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.